Hi, Dr. Yerling here, and in this video, I'm going to talk a bit about the brain science of learning. Many students tell me they study for hours every day or spent all weekend preparing for the exam, but is that really the best way to study? I'd like to show you some research-backed proven methods to maximize the time that you're putting into this class and any others. Let's start by learning about the external focus we have and internal reflection and how they play a role in memory retrieval. So external focus is what you're doing now. It's sustained attention to something external. It allows you to problem solve and helps you create working memory. And in this image, it shows you some of the regions that are really lit up when we are working this external focus network called the central executive network. In contrast, we have another network that's really internal reflection. This is your internal dialogue, and it's called the default mode network. Daydreaming and mind wandering are often things that people use to describe when their default mode network kicks into gear. And you can see that very different parts of our brain are lit up during the default mode network compared to the central executive network. And this might make sense to you if I give you an example that it would be really hard to be in a class, be listening to your instructor writing on the whiteboard while also daydreaming. And so people think that these networks work opposite of each other, that they don't really work too well together at the same time. What does that have to do with learning? Well, let's fold in another layer here, memory. We're thought to have three stages of memory. Encoding, which is taking in information. Consolidation, which is stabilizing and storing that information. And then retrieval is accessing that stored information. And that's where you want to get to if you are going to be testing on an exam or any other situation where you're being asked to demonstrate what you learned. Okay, so what? How does this all fit together? Well, encoding is heavily externally focused. So your attention is reading a paragraph, listening to someone talk, me asking you questions and you thinking about the answers. So that's very much involved in your central executive network. But equally as important is consolidation. So remember, we want to stabilize those memories. And when that happens, it's more heavily dynamic mode network. This is occurring during rest and sleep, brain breaks, daydreaming. So they both play a role in helping you get to that stage of retrieval, which is what you're aiming for. So what are some study strategies to give you some examples? So in coding, you could have a focus study session. And a key part to being really successful in encoding is without distractions. Elaborative encoding is a fancier, more detailed way to go about it. You're making connections in your mind to different concepts. Taking notes in your own words is a really great way to get your brain firing and to activate a lot of your neurons. Concept maps can also be a really effective way to get your brain firing in the encoding. All right, so what about consolidation? When you encode that information, it needs to be transferred to different parts of your brain. And I like these images of the different networks because they show just how different parts of your brains are working and how they both work together. Getting adequate sleep is one of the best researched ways to help you with this consolidation. Spaced study sessions. So I'll give you some examples of research-backed ways to do that. Review materials after rest periods. Let your mind wander. Again, how can you do both the encoding and the consolidation together? I'll give you some examples. And then retrieval we have, and that's where you're hoping to get to for your exam. So it's really using a lot of different parts of your brain. And a great way for retrieval is to self-test yourself. So write questions, flashcards, quizzes, teaching or explaining the material out loud, even if it's only to yourself, practice problems, spaced retrieval, again, coming back. So we'll describe that in a bit more detail. Here's a behavior that I see a lot. We're very busy and we have jobs, we got kids to take care of, or both, or we just really are wanting to live our life, get out and enjoy things. And so that leads us to want to just look up the answer instantly. And I'm going to provide you with the answers. You are in an online class, you're working from home. I don't want you to be left without that resource. But if you are instantly going to look up the answer, your brain does not look like this. You're not firing up that central executive network very much at all. It's pretty weak. And if you don't get that fired up, you're not going to be able to move it into your default mode network and make those consolidations and stable memories that you need. So first try. What do you think the answer is? Struggling through can really be an effective way to help fire up your brain, and then you can check. And if you see the answer, then that's great. If you're not sure, that's what I'm here for. So a really good example of how you can do this is a concept map. It's going to help you with all the stages. In coding, because you're organizing and you're processing it in a meaningful way. So take the glossary terms from a reading and try to build a concept map. How do those concepts fit together? And how are they different from each other? That's going to get a lot of your brain firing. Then consolidation. So give yourself a break, give yourself some time, and then come back to it. Can you recreate that? Can you explain the concept map and the reasons that you made the connections that you did? That's a really wonderful way to get your brain going. So here's some final thoughts and tips. The Pomodoro method is a method that has been well researched and proven to be quite effective. 25 minutes of active study. Think brain lit up. I mean, just any way you can build a model. Write down notes, take sticky notes and move them around in a concept map, just getting as many types of brain activity going for that 25 minutes, and then give yourself 5 minutes of rest, doing something different that your phone is not rest, that is still external focus. So journal, walk, meditate. I mean, I would say even playing music, coloring, just anything that's tapping into different activity for yourself is going to be helpful. Sleep. Can't state how much that's important to helping you, so get rest. And then for our neurodivergent learners, we have very similar processes, but there are just some things to pay extra special attention to. So distractions impair encoding for anyone, but they may be even more impactful if you're a neurodivergent learner. So what can you do? It's called chunking. And I have another video where I describe tips, and that one is has more detail on how you would do that. There's multi-sensory input is proven to help. That's what I was mentioning, where you are writing the glossary terms on Post-it notes and then sticking them up on the wall, moving them around, getting a lot of different types of senses involved. And then if sleep difficulties for anyone, well, that's going to affect your consolidation. Remember, that was happening, those stabilizing the memories when we get rest, when we have breaks. So what can you do if that's the case for you? Well, spaced repetition becomes important. And again, I talk more about that in another video. So let's practice what we just learned about. You've had about 8 minutes of focus here. So go take a walk and reflect. Come up with any ideas. You can let your mind just wander, however feels best to you. If you are going to think about what you learned here, here's some prompts that might be helpful. So what stands out to you as areas where you're strong? What are some areas where you know you could improve? How can you create quiet moments throughout the day to let your brain wander, to kick in that internal dialogue of the dynamic mode network that you now know is important? What strategies can you do to balance the focus with your restful reflection? That's going to look different for every person because we all have different demands with our jobs and the other expectations in our life. So thank you for listening. I really hope that you find this helps you study more effectively. Let me know what you think. And me, my dog, he's a very handsome boy, and my daughter hiking. Bye.